My dear, timed that well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow in Pit Lane's regular Wednesday night get together. It's good to have you back once again. As we look at the week in motorsport, our week in motorsport, or my week in motorsport at least, was spent mostly down at Phillip Island for the 6-hour relay race, and we might talk a bit more about that later if Dave Stillwell joins us, because he was certainly down there up to his neck in it. And it was apart from the appalling wind and some very late rain. It wasn't a bad weekend weather-wise, and it was lots of fun. So it's one of those things. If you haven't done it before, it's a really great way to go motor racing and get lots and lots of lap time at one of the world's great circuits. Anyway, let's check out the crew for tonight. We've got Pete, we've got Chris, we've got Stuart, and we've got Doc, of course, joining us at the moment. So welcome everybody. How are we all?
Very good. Yourself, Brett?
Yes, not too bad. All things considered, I think we're right. I think we can. There we are. I've just unmuted Chris. There you are.
Oh, the gold mic's back. Good to see you.
Yep. So, okay. We'll see. As I said, having spent most of the weekend down at Phillip Island on the weekend, didn't get much of an opportunity. I was so tired when I got back from Phillip Island on Sunday.
I can tell. I went past you, and I was going down in the teeming rain, and I looked to my left, and you were just over the wheel like this, concentrating. I thought it's usually you going whizzing by me at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but when I'm going past you on the freeway back, it's the other way around. That you must have been a little bit lethargic.
I was absolutely knocked out. I was struggling all the way home to stay awake, and I've been like that. I was saying to Pete before we got on there today, I had lots and lots of things to do, and about 1 o'clock I just could not move myself out of the house, and I just thought, I'm going to have to go and have a lie down. That was about 1 o'clock. 4 hours later, I woke up, and I'm still absolutely buggered. So,
Lucky,
but we'll get through.
You didn't even give me a wave on Sunday when I went past you. When I gave
I
you
didn't.
one.
I didn't see you. I didn't. As I said, I was focused ahead, listening to the footy, and yep. Okay, let's welcome some of our regulars. G'day to Dave Howard. How are you, Dave? Box is joining us once again. Paul Van den Acker is joining us again, as is Giuseppe. G'day, Giuseppe. How are you? So we've got some of the regulars there. So okay, let's talk about Formula One. As I said, I was so tired. I lasted as long as sort of the formation lap, and then I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. And I was half looking at Formula One and half looking at the cricket, and in the end I didn't see either of them through. So, Pete, another victory for Max Verstappen.
Yeah. Sorry, go. Yep.
No, let's know what do you think of it all? What happened?
Well, normally I look forward to Spa, and I actually thought it was a very boring race, including behind him. Normally, in the past this year, it's been exciting behind Max, but I actually thought it was a very boring race this time.
He started from back on the grid a little bit too, and it shows just how dominant he is. I mean, the fact that there was, even though he started he wasn't way back in the grid. What he started, it was about 6th or something that he started from.
Yeah,
because of a gearbox change, and he just romped through and got in front and just drove away and seemed to win comfortably from what I've seen from the highlights I saw.
Yeah,
it looked like the Williams were fast at the start, and then suddenly they're at the back of the pack and going nowhere. Yeah. Everybody else was doing the same thing, and the only people going forwards was, well, really Vettel and maybe Hamilton.
Verstappen.
Verstappen. Verstappen and Hamilton.
Crash happened.
Well, he hasn't had that for a long time. He's been very reliable.
He hasn't ran into anyone for a while.
No, well, he's had no one to run into. I mean, he's just been so dominant. Interesting. We saw
Although from qualifying in the sprint, Oscar gave him something to be a bit of a worry about.
Yeah, well, as Paul's
was a
saying, I mean, watching the Sky Sport team singing the praises of Oscar, he did a really good job in the sprint race. Apparently, once again, didn't see that because we were down at Phillip Island, and the place we were staying at didn't have Foxtel or KO or anything like that. So,
well, to Pete's point about how boring the race was, the sprint was much more exciting. The race itself, you expect Spa to have excitement because it's Spa.
Yeah,
and
you expect Spa to have rain.
There's only one person that.
Well, it did.
There was only one person who had a twitch
of rain,
through Eau Rouge, and that was Crash Happen.
Did have lots of rain, didn't it, Pete? I watched all the Friday warm up and
Friday and Saturday.
Free practice one was just basically complete rain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
actually, there was about 4, 5, 6 drivers that didn't even lodge a time in the free practice one. Didn't even bother going out. So when I was watching that,
yep.
Yeah, and it looks like that sort of after a pretty good first appearance for AlphaTauri, Daniel Ricciardo didn't have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Fell back. What was that the story?
That was taken out in the first corner.
He exceeded track limits in qualifying, so he got his lap time deleted. So that meant he started right at the, and then he just never.
Wasn't he caught up in that first lap tangle as well?
That was last.
The shunts with turn one.
No, that was last week.
That was last week.
He just.
The weeks are blurring. The weeks are just blurring, isn't it? Yep.
Tell me about it. But anyway, that's interesting. And Alpine are Alpine are in turmoil again.
They're just copping it from old employees. That's all. They're just there's a bit of sandbagging going on, bit of mud being thrown from behind. That's about all. There's 3 of them that are left lately, and they're just throwing mud. That's all.
Yeah, but they were three senior people. Yeah.
Anyone's going to throw mud at the team from behind if they're not happy with their circumstances.
And the word is that they're going after Mattia Bonono, but I wouldn't. If I was Mattia, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole because the culture is very similar. It seems to Ferrari. Everything's done by committee and.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the problems. I mean, you've got sort of it looks like that you've got. It'll be interesting to see how long Renault sort of stick with it because it seems to be that the management of Renault are beginning to lose patience, particularly the guy in charge at the very top of the company is starting to get very vocal in the fact that, hey, we put a lot of money into this exercise and we had a plan and our plan is not going to plan and we're not happy about it. Yeah. So you wonder how long it will continue before eventually sort of the board of Renault get together and say, no, that's it, we're okay, we're not winning, we're out of here, and either getting out of motorsport completely, which has a lot of attraction for a lot of people now, or turning around and going, oh, geez, tell you what, this hypercar thing is going really, really well, and Peugeot are back, and Le Mans next year.
Yeah.
Well, all the rumours are swirling as usual, but when you get like an ex-employee or one that was, I think he left a couple of years ago, coming out and saying, oh, they haven't got a big name, they need a Verstappen, they need a Vettel, they need a Hamilton. It's easy to say that, and that's just, criticising the 2 drivers they've got now. I mean, you've got to pay big dollars to get hold of one of those guys. And, it's got to be it's got to be approved by committee, as you just said as well, to a certain extent. So, I mean, it depends on what direction they want to go with. But, to secure an up and coming champion, they're going to have to peg him pretty early and throw some investment into him and make sure they get him in some sort of contract.
Well, they had one in Oscar Piastri and they let him go.
Yeah, well, they've all probably got shoulda, woulda, couldas. All the teams over the last 10 years, and it doesn't always work out.
Even if they do get a champion or a better driver, there's no guarantee that they might bring them up the order a bit, but there's no guarantee that they'll, win a championship quickly, because you've got to have the car to do it. I mean, it's all very well to say that Max is dominating, and yes, he's a good driver, but he's also got a good car.
Yeah, well, he's clearly got the best car, but
All the
that's
ducks
not
in a
helping.
row.
That's not helping Sergio all that much. I mean,
Yeah,
he's after sort of doing fairly well the week before, he's still not sort of probably
No.
getting the best out of that car, and the vultures are certainly circling, and there's a lot of people who are saying that like his place next year is going to be in
Well, Hulkenberg's name's
doubt.
been thrown up in the last week because he went into the Red Bull tent or garage or
Everybody
whatever
does
it
that.
is. What's that?
Everybody goes into each other's.
Yeah, I know they do, but I don't know. Maybe it's just another slow news day. Hulkenberg's been linked with the spot now as well too. So
Yeah, well, I suppose that's why they're looking towards Daniel to do well. But if Daniel struggles, you would imagine that Helmut is not going to be happy, and they've got Lawson, still sitting there over in Japan doing very well in Super Formula, and then they've got there's the forgotten man, Nick Cassidy, just gone back and he dominated in Japan sort of last year, and now he's doing well in Formula E, and not that means much, but they've got some options there.
well, look, Daniel could be completely out altogether as well too. Who knows by the end of the year what happens? And Nico and Liam could both be in two different seats again. It's just so many variables that could play out before the silly season. Well, it's summer holidays anyway, so there's going to be a lot of conjecture for a few weeks.
Yeah, as we know that sort of it's famous in France that France closes down completely in August. It's every time we've been there, people have said, like if you're coming to France, never go to France in August because everything is closed, because they just go, it is summer. We are not stuff this. We are not working. So shops, everything, just so everybody goes on holidays. So Formula One's on holidays now, but it was a good weekend for the Australians in the support categories. Formula 2, Jack Doohan has come back and had a really, really good weekend again, and he's putting it down to his the mid-season test that he said gave him some plans, gave him some focus and a bit more encouragement to get out there, and so he's coming good at the right time of year, and he was certainly, in terms of Alpine, he's one whose name has been linked to Alpine. Obviously, he's got the support of them it'd be interesting if he does very well, particularly comes home, whether he wins the championship or not. If he comes home with a really strong run over the final few rounds and makes a bit of a run at the championship, perhaps they'll look at moving Jack. Alpine will look at moving Jack into the car.
Yeah.
Well, Frederick's getting a Guernsey. He's getting looks like most likely George Russell's spot at Mercedes in free practice 1 come after the summer break
He's
at
getting
Silverstone. So Frederick Vasseur. So he's one of Jack's main rivals. That'll be it's going to pan out a little bit of. It might be worth watching the F2s a bit more than the F1s in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, it has been better racing. It's they're certainly, as we said, they certainly sound better. The racing's been really good in the main. So So g'day, Justin. How are you? Welcome to the show. Justin Anzo is joining us right now. So hi to Justin. Yeah, I think that Jack has been obviously, been targeted, and for a long, long time, Alpine have been behind him, right through his junior career, and they're obviously planning long term for him. they were for Oscar, and you'd hope they wouldn't make the same mistake again by hanging on too long and putting him out to pasture, and then somebody else comes in from behind and grabs him. Because if he's got any talent, and it seems he has, it'd be a shame for them to lose another one again.
Yeah.
Well, his manager's highly experienced in World Championship winning stuff, so just like Oscar's manager didn't quite win one, but he's very highly experienced and versed.
Yeah, well, I think that's another thing that Mick is obviously is a very, very good businessman. He's a very ruthless businessman, and I imagine he's working behind the scenes, and they won't get away. Alpine won't get away with stuffing him around either, because I imagine Mick would be saying you'd better make a decision pretty quick, boys, or otherwise we're walking. If there's any out clause in that contract,
I think
and somebody else puts their hand up.
Mick had the mantle of being the highest paid coffee drinker in the world at one stage there when he was working for Honda. He was basically a consultant, expert consultant, and all he did was, when he was asked, I just stand around and I drink coffee. So he was.
Isn't that what all consultants do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so. It's always what I would like to be a consultant. I mean, I know people who are consultants. You never know what they get. They get well paid for it. I'm not sure what's half the time. I have no idea what they're consulting on. But anyway, they certainly get well paid for it.
They don't know what they're consulting on.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I think if you're good at doing PowerPoint presentations, you've got a job as a consultant. But also in Formula 3, Christian Mansell did very well. Unfortunately, he's racing at the moment under the British flag, so it looks a bit strange when he comes there. But he did quite well. And Hugh not quite at the pointy end. I mean, it is his first year in the category, and he's got a lot to learn. But Christian has really come on. Christian has. Every now and again he shows glimpses of real potential, so that was a really good performance for him over the weekend. So there's another potential Aussie in Formula One. I mean, if we got Jack in and Daniel and could hang around, and Oscar is there as well, we could possibly have 3 Australians in Formula One next year. The way things are going,
That'll upset the British, won't it?
Anything that upsets the British is okay by me.
Yes, very, very, very much so. It's interesting, like as Paul said, that them jumping on the Oscar Piastri bandwagon, because they seem to be off of it. When after as little as after the first couple of races, it was he's been a bit disappointing. We were expecting more from him, and he's nowhere near as fast as Lando, and now he's actually.
Hang on, he's out qualifying Lando.
Well, he is now, and
But he wasn't
the Sky,
before.
the Sky F1
It
team
took him a
aren't
little longer
too
to
happy
get some
about
seat
it.
time.
I'll leave the
It took him a
jury
little
out.
longer to get used to the car.
I'll leave the jury on Lando for the time being. Going to what the initial comment that this subject started, I'm not sure whether. Well, leave the jury on that one. But I think if there were 3 Aussies playing with their bat and ball out there, George Russell, from the inside I've seen so far, he's very down to earth. I think he'd fully endorse it and enjoy it, and it doesn't matter who races as long as they're a good guy. So George is very down to earth. Some of the stuff I've seen from his interviews and a little bit of the Netflix stuff. So yeah, he's a great guy. Hamilton, well, he's just a pompous ass to everyone basically, unless they're playing his game. No one else is allowed to have an opinion.
No. Hamilton is a good median. It's like you're either as good, better, or worse than Hamilton.
There's a
He's
lot
that
worse.
middle of the road. So if you beat him, you're doing well. If you're not as good as him, well, you're going to get a different drive.
Yeah.
Well, they're obviously not. I mean, obviously Mercedes, the changes they've made haven't been as successful. Certainly haven't been as successful as they'd hoped. They've certainly done a lot better than they did at the start of the year, so they are getting there. McLaren have got more have got more
McLaren
upgrades
got better.
to
Mercedes
come,
have got better. Alonso and Aston have gone backwards. What the heck happened? Yeah, with all these updates, they've just faded away. I mean, they were so good at the start of the season.
Yeah,
Now?
Aston Martin were really looking like they were the big improvers, and it was going to be oh gee, could we see sort of the old lion and the new dog sort of battling it out? Could Fernando was going to win Grand Prix this year? Everyone said he's the chance. If Max makes a mistake, Fernando's going to be there to jump on him. And yeah, as you say, I mean, they've really gone. Well, perhaps not gone backwards, but they've stood still while other people have
They've stood
improved,
still as everybody else has moved forward.
That's right. There's been lack of development there. Although I did see Alonso's interview in the Thursday driver interviews, and he still seemed upbeat, very cool, calm, collected. Typical Alonso, Fernando himself, but yeah, I don't think he was hiding the fact that they aren't developing or moving along as quick as some of the other teams. But I think he's just in a good place still at the moment, Fernando, and enjoying his racing.
As long as he's got a drive and they're paying him for it, I mean, Fernando will be in a good place.
He doesn't need the money either, so I think he just actually enjoys the sport and enjoys the comradeship from the people that he has to work with. He enjoys working with.
Yeah, he obviously likes the challenge. I mean, that time that he was, in the time that he was with Toyota for the World Endurance Championship, everybody who had anything to do with him said that there was no doubt he was taking it very, very seriously, and same with his couple of attempts at Indy. They were very
Just
very
a quick side note on
him.
that one. Toyota Gazoo Racing. I saw the pictures of new Hilux today. The Gazoo Racing Hilux. So it looks pretty hot.
I have a Gazoo Racing Hilux. That's almost against the law. Yeah, that's really.
Why you got a Dakar Rally to compete in? Why can't you have a Gazoo Racing Hilux?
Yeah, I suppose so. I see that.
What else do you put in the Dakar Rally? Of course, you put it in it. Anyway,
bikes.
That's
you put
not
bikes.
bad.
No, you've got the trucks, you've got the quads,
That's
you've got
not
the
bad
bikes,
at all, Doc.
the cars, you've got the whole lot. I watched them all.
Stuart's found.
There you go. That's what
There we
I'm
go.
saying.
Stuart's found a photo.
Yeah, there's nothing
There
wrong
it
with
is.
that. In trepidation by all of you. Jeez, come on.
No, I like it.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
That one, it's I mean, it's no Jeep, but
No. Well,
you got to live with that.
And interesting,
I bet you it's probably got half
Stuart,
the
one
price
of their
tag.
sponsors is Netgear.
I was probably going to say it's probably half the price tag of a bloody Jeep as well too. No offense, Stuart, but
No offense, mate. I will just go back to hook and rides in my brother's Grand Cherokee Hybrid from the weekend and enjoying that.
Good. And I was going to say, I thought of you this week, and I don't usually think of you, but when I was driving the truck down the highway a couple of days ago, Dukes of Hazzard RT Charger went just whistling by. Not at great breathtaking speed, just doing the limit like it should be.
With or without the flag on the roof?
No flag on the roof, but geez, it was orange in colour, and I thought, you just don't see character on the road these days, and put a smile on my dial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
there were a few VH coupes with that paint job.
Thank you for finding that pickup, but I reckon the Hilux that'll go great guns in the Dakar. I'm looking forward to that part.
Well, it was interesting that I saw that they were talking about people talking about the future of supercars. What the hell do you race if you're not racing Mustangs and Camaros, because Camaros are disappearing. What replaces them? They're having this problem also in Brazil with their touring car series as well.
Well, they currently race.
Well, currently they're racing sort of smaller, a bit like the TCR cars, but they're sort of disappearing as well too. And the manufacturers are basically have come out now and said, they said, well, what do you guys want to race? What's going to keep you interested? And they're saying, we want to race SUVs. That's what now they're talking about. and they're talking about replacing the TC
Two-wheel drive or
2000.
four-wheel drive?
No, two-wheel drive. The
Ride
artist's
height?
impression that we're talking the small the small SUVs, and the
So mini
artist's
truck racing.
Yes, but the artist's impressions, actually don't look too bad. They've given them sort of the DTM treatment in the artist's impression, and they don't look too bad. But
You just knocked the
So
highlights.
this-
I'd hate to see a Kluger going around Brazil.
Yeah,
Oh,
as long
I-
as they don't, as long as they don't turn out like the super utes, the
yeah,
twin cab utes.
that's what I'm
Well,
thinking. I mean, because they look horrible. They look.
You know, it could be worse. They could be racing Rivians against Teslas against MGs.
Oh, look, depending on
Rav
how they
fours.
do that, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, the only problem is you might have the, and this is going to be an increasing problem, and that they keep conveniently ignoring, is you're going to have more problems like they had at the World Rallycross just recently, where the meeting had to be cancelled because when the fire broke out in the Lancia team, and they couldn't get the thing out. It absolutely destroyed the garage. It destroyed all the cars, and
That's something that needs to be dealt with worldwide. That's not just a motorsport issue. We need better technology for firefighting but that's no different to when electrical fires happen and they developed new extinguishers. Chemical fires come along in business, develop new extinguishers. We've just got to catch up.
Maybe they don't need a fire pin in Teslas like they do to let off a bomb in the bloody lithium battery area, just like they do in race cars. It's maybe a possibility. Just some sort of fire bomb to let it off.
Yeah,
You do not
something
pour
that
water onto a lithium fire, ever.
No,
that's it.
Which is why some of the comments with this roll on, roll off thing that's got a fire on it in the North Sea. And people are saying, we'll just push the EVs into the ocean. You want to push lithium batteries into the water next to the ship that's already on fire. Really?
Yeah, and even, as Box saying, EV catches fire on a car carrier. Goodbye, car carrier. Also, I mean,
yeah, but it doesn't matter if it's just an EV. If you've got a regular car with enough gasoline in there or petrol or whatever,
Kaboomy.
Yeah, I know. I've been
listening to I don't know.
Racing. You get enough fuel and contain it, it's going to burn hot. You're going to have problems. It doesn't matter whether it's lithium or carbon based.
Yeah, either way, I've seen there was a Tesla went up at the car park of the Dandenong Market a few months back, and the local there were three trucks from the local CFA on duty, and they just basically were hosing down and trying to protect the cars that were sitting around it, and they just said, let it burn. There's nothing we can do about it.
Get the marshmallows out.
The other thing is you've got aluminium in the structure, and once you get the aluminium hot enough, it burns as well.
And also the smoke that was pouring out of the thing. I mean, it was just it filled up. I thought they were going to have to evacuate the market because just everything got full with this horrendous smelling black smoke that was just lingering around the market area, and you could smell it for the rest of the day. It was really, really bad. But they basically just let it burn itself out, and then they took away what was left of the Tesla on the back of a truck.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, which one of you lot is swatting me?
Huh?
2 weeks in a row, and I got the ruddy helicopter flying around. Which one of you is swatting me?
No. I haven't dobbed you in for your drugs or anything like that.
They usually swat me.
They're just doing it's.
Just doing. While you're talking about doing the rounds, also, did you see that Targa West has severed ties with MA, and they're going to go with AASA, and that's basically every other Targa across Australia is doing that at the moment. So don't like the licensing stipulations that MA have been trying to put in place after the reviews over the past 12 months. And that's because there were 4 deaths, obviously, in 2 Targas in Tasmania, that sort of thing. But they're changing the rules on the licensing points to international style rules where you got for the first, I think, 10 races as well too, that you only have certain speed limits and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was supposed to have an interview with Mark from Targa Tasmania on Monday, and I must admit, once again, as I said, because I was so zonked out, it completely slipped my mind. And we'd scheduled something for later this week as well, and I'm just not going to have time, unfortunately, to get to it. And probably over the next few weeks, before we start the new series in the studio of In Pit Lane, I'm going to have a complete break for a couple of weeks because I've just got some serious stuff that needs to be done, and I'm just going to have to sort of pull the plug on all of this for a couple of weeks. So, I think. I don't think that Motorsport Australia would be disappointed with that at all. I think that was part of the deal, basically, that they didn't want to get out there and say no, we're going to ban these things, but it was going to be, if they're going to continue, they're going to continue under very, very strict conditions, and they probably knew that those conditions were so strict that a lot of people would move over to AASA. The ironic thing is, when AASA started, and I keep forgetting his name, Sydney Lawyer, who was involved, Paul Van Den Acker might know, he might remember, I'm not sure, but when you had Bob and Mick Ronk and a couple of people, but there was a Sydney Lawyer. He came down, he flew down especially and appeared on the show, and he was heavily involved in setting up AASA. And one of the arguments that they all used at the time, and that Bob used in interviews with us, and Mick Ronk used in interviews with us, was that they were setting this thing up because insurance rates were going through the roof, and as Bob was saying, we're paying for all of this ridiculous rally targa shit that's running around and not on a proper racetrack, and insurance premiums are going up because people are wrapping themselves around trees, and and now it looks like AASA is going to be the saviour of targa events and tarmac rallies in Australia, because there's no doubt that Motorsport Australia really don't want anything to do with them anymore. But anyways, what's... Yeah, I think MA has been used by Motorcycling Australia.
Not Terry Donovan, was it, Brett? No, it wasn't from Terry Donovan, no?
No, I forget the guy. He was very heavily involved in the staff, but anyway, it doesn't matter now. As Paul's saying, MA has been used by Motorcycling Australia. I did see someone said MSA, and then someone said, no, there's another company, MSA. I mean... Perhaps we should just go back to calling it CAMS. Everybody knows what CAMS is or was, and Paul also talking. Now, Paul would know about, because being an official, and he would know about this. Lithium batteries cannot be X until they burn themselves out because they produce their own heat and oxygen, and that's basically, unless you totally. As you say.
If there was something that would do like a firebomb but take the heat out,
they need to take the heat and smother. And I mean, as long as the heat's there, as you said, it's going to produce oxygen, its own oxygen. It's going to be almost impossible.
You need something that literally encases it, and in the process, the temperature's got to drop. It's got to absorb the heat.
Someone will develop some sort of chemical or something that'll be able to obviously fight it to a certain extent.
But as you're saying, I mean, if one goes up at a race, as you're saying, if one goes up at a race meeting, I mean, which is what happened with the World Rally Cross, and that was overnight. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine sort of like a if you've got like a fully electric car field running around, and suddenly two of them crash and suddenly burst into flame, and the place gets filled with
don't park next to it, get away.
And the flaggies, what does it mean for the flaggies and the marshals and the fireys who have got they can't touch if they're electric cars until they're discharged, they can't touch the cars.
There'd have to be a certain amount of meterage exclusion zone then.
Yeah, and then what are you going to do? Like you've got drivers trapped in a car that's absolutely, not just burning, but absolutely, like really, massively burning.
Well,
there'll be no getting them out. I mean, and what does that look like for the sport? Having people on live television.
We've got the Formula E series. That, I'm sure there must be some sort of technology and some some sort of safety procedures that they follow at this stage. So there's the
It'd be
Formula E
interesting
car.
because I don't think they've had any of
Are
these
they
problems.
lithium batteries?
No, nothing's gone up there on the
On
Formula E
a
series.
small scale, lithium batteries can be quelled by sand, which melts and then encases it. But
Yeah,
where do you get a truckload
So
of sand?
encasing
all
it in
over a
silicon.
car? Yeah, essentially, yes.
A lot of races on beaches.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going. I don't know what they're going to do because in terms of I mean, obviously it seems to be the technology that is getting the push at the moment. They're certainly fast enough as we've seen just recently. It did Goodwood yet again. I mean, the fastest cars were all electric. We've seen them turn over and totally dominate Formula SAE, and that's not just speed. That's also things like endurance and all the rest of it.
Do you have to have a helicopter next door on a footy field there with a firebomb thing, just like you do with water, but a whole couple of ton of sand ready to drop?
It just gets sponsored by the Ericsson Sky Crane. Just
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Have a sky crane with a couple of ton of sand ready to just drop on board. Hey, life is the beach.
Yes, Boxer's asking the question, what does Formula One do if a battery pack goes up in smoke?
I think
Would they not be the leaders in these matters, Pete?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know, but I seem to recall that when Kerrs, I think, first came in, Williams had a fire after a race in their garage.
They're also a much smaller. They're also a much smaller battery. I mean, obviously because they're a hybrid. They're sort of a. But the next set of regulations, part of the appeal, if you call it that, the marketing appeal, especially this was what got Audi involved, is that the electric component is going to be a lot more important and a lot more powerful, and that's what's attracted them. So at the moment, I mean, the fact that Formula E hasn't had any, they've had a few crashes and a few fairly big crashes, but they're not as fast. But they haven't had any major incidents that I know of. Certainly nothing that's caused any injury. So
it'll be all over the news like a hot potato, hot pancakes. Anyway,
Battery.
Let's also on the weekend, something else I didn't see while we were down at Phillip Island were the supercars. Pete?
Yep. Well, I always thought if you didn't run someone completely off the track, you were allowed to bump them and pass them. I thought that penalty for Shane Van Gisbergen was a bit harsh.
There were a couple of strange ones. There was one that I saw today, which was the sort of an unsafe release or something with Cam Waters, and I looked at it. And, it was a close run thing, but it was a very close run thing, but it seemed to go fairly smooth. I don't think I think it was Kostecki who was coming in, but there was sort of a very smooth crossover by the look of it from me, with just what I saw, and I thought it might be sort of raise your eyebrows, but I didn't really think it was that bad.
It looked to me, I have spatial issues, but it looked to me from the video, that it was Cam Waters and Brock Feeney, I think.
Brock Feeney, was it?
Yeah.
That's right.
To me that,
Triple A car.
And it looked to me like Brock Feeney would have had to wait anyway for Cam Waters to go, because it looked like he had to go a little bit into their pit bay to get into his pit bay.
Yeah, it seemed to be like almost precision driving. They just sort of crossed over and it seemed to work pretty. From the side that I saw, I only saw sort of the highlights. But when I saw that, that Tickford and Cam had been, penalised for it, I thought, and it wasn't as if he was leaving the pits and coming straight through. No. They were crossing over, and he just eased off a little bit and got in. Hardly touched the brakes. I didn't see it as a problem.
Yeah, but it was, the night racing was good. You had the flames and everything.
I must say, and I don't know if Stuart, if you saw the bits. The only bit I saw was when we were having tea at the local pub, and it was on one of the televisions at the pub. But those lights at Sydney Motorsport Park are not anywhere near up to broadcast standards.
No. There
I
are
haven't seen them.
Not enough candles.
there are sections where you can hardly see, and when
So they haven't been upgraded to LEDs or anything like that.
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure whether I'm assuming that they'd be
The whole
LEDs,
track
but
or
they're
black
very
spots,
they're
right?
very small. There's way too many shadows. There's
That's
darkness
black
and
spots.
yeah, there's black spot, and just in terms, I don't know what it's like there. It's probably okay there, but in terms of television, I know that years ago, Calder Park, Channel 9 dropped their coverage of the drag racing nationals because the first year they went there and were doing it, Bob brought in a whole bunch on the insistence of Channel 9. Bob brought in a whole bunch of temporary lighting to bring the drag strip up to the quality that Nine demanded for broadcast. And the next year he said, no, I'm not doing that. And Nine dropped him like that and said, no, it's just not up to standard. And, I'm looking at Sydney Motorsport Park. I don't believe that's broadcast standard.
I didn't watch any night racing.
Might look fine. It might look fine there. But I thought it looked, on television, I thought it looked terrible.
7+ might have some of the highlights packages for review from the
It also
weekend.
depends on what cameras they're using, Brett.
Well, you would assume
Well, if
that.
they-
Yeah, I mean, they're using pretty much state of the art stuff. I mean, they're not doing it on a budget. They'd be doing it through
Same
Gearhouse
cameras
or
they use
NFP,
during the day, mate.
NFP or
They have to
something
be the
like
same
that.
cameras. They just have to change the setups on the cameras, basically.
Well,
They're not
it's
going to change
It's
cameras
not just
tonight.
that. No, there'll be the same cameras, but also it depends on the speed of the lens, whether the lens is being used at its long end or not. And again, the sensitivity of the cameras. Some cameras will just run in gain once the sun's gone down.
Did you
But-
say so? Did you just say sensitivity, Stuart?
Yeah.
Yeah, sensitivity. That's all right. I'll just. I was going to say, does anyone want to ask Barry Ryan about the sensitivity of Sydney Motorsport Park?
Yeah, I reckon.
I feel sorry for him because what do you expect? You straight after it, and a television crew comes up, and I mean, really,
Yeah, but that
what do
goes
you
with
expect?
the territory. I mean,
I agree.
they know that
Let him go.
they know that they're on television. They are paid an enormous amount of money. And what really annoyed me was the smart ass comments afterwards regarding doing some time. He said, I'll take a violin in with me. I mean, that
was silly.
Yeah, that was just insulting.
Banging the drum.
That's just insulting to the people who give up an extraordinary amount of their time and effort. I mean, he gets paid very well to do that job. The marshals and all of the volunteers and officials there, are not the same. And I just thought that he got off very lightly. Quite frankly, if it had been me, I'd have suspended his ass for six rounds.
Well, he
So,
got half of his fine suspended, so to speak, if you want, and got some community service out of it. And however, he has
his community service should be like put me in charge. His community
put
service
him in a
will be
bloody
to do.
shed out in the track too. Yeah.
Put him out at Siberia for a midwinter round of the Victorian State Series for a weekend. Flagging, send him down. Sure, Christian and a few of the other guys and Roger and a few of the others would.
Christian,
they'd all help. They'd all help him out. They'd be very
Roger
happy to have him
Roger
there.
and Knackers and Jeremy and all the gang that we know and Stilly and the rest of them. Go give him a job to do for a couple of days over a weekend and give him some of the silver platter service that they have to put up with. So
let him get up at sort of
5,
be
4,
there
he
at 7
gets up
o'clock in
those
the
hours
morning
anyway. But give him make life a little bit tougher. But he's got away with it to a certain extent because he's also hit back with a open letter, which doesn't criticise it, but he tries and gets on his soapbox about.
Yeah, well, I mean,
justification.
he has apologised as he should. I mean, look, I can understand it's like I think it's Roland Dane in his column is sort of saying like people are in a car or something are going, people are going to swear. There's going to be things happen in cars where people, somebody hits you all of a sudden and sends you off. You're not going to say, "Oh gosh darn, what a shame, my race is over."
That wasn't very nice, was it?
But well, they've got the technology to delay it, which they do in Formula One, so they can and should do
Just
that.
bleep it. Yeah, just
And
bleep
also, but I mean, but in the case of a man who's in charge, basically the CEO of the boss of the team is yeah, I mean, he's getting a microphone shoved in his face. He knows he's live, and I think it just shows incredible arrogance to sit there and say that stuff and get
completely
away
putting
with
the
it.
situation
So,
aside, and this guy's not arrogant at all, but we have to put up with it on full course yellow every single night anyway, because half the words that come out of Stewart's mouth we have to bleep anyway, because all he wants to do is swear all the time too. So I mean,
Australian.
at least he's not arrogant, but he does.
just quickly, I think it's worth pointing out for people for people who are listening. There's a man, Cow Mark, is saying. The official said that car data had showed that Brock was compromised by Waters pulling out. It wouldn't have been much from what I saw, but yeah, he might have been. I suppose if the data showed that, then perhaps they had to take some action against it. But perhaps it was a bit over the penalty didn't fit the crime.
Hey.
On
Sorry,
the rumour mill.
The helicopter has an infrared spotlight.
Yeah,
It shows up on security cameras.
yeah.
And
Well,
the flashing lights just drove up my street.
While we're on supercars, just before we leave,
They're coming for you, Stuart.
Yeah, finally.
They're narrowing it down.
Those bloody coordinates are finally getting them right for a change. I've got to stop feeding them the bloody wrong ones. Anyway,
I'll just put the drone up. They'll have to fly away.
Getting back to the supercars, the driver rumour mill, because obviously they're having a bit of time themselves off now. Our favourite electric man, Davey Reynolds, has been linked to Team 18 in the last couple of days. Only because I asked him what's going on next year, and it's been for the last month. Grove Racing have not confirmed him as a driver, and he said he wants to be there still, but he said I'm still open for offers. The other one, if that could take him to Team 18, which would reunite him with Frosty, which will also reunite him with Charlie Schwarzkopf, and that goes back to Tickford days. So it's all popping balloons and party poppers going off everywhere. However, the other one too that I reckon's probably a roughie, and I'm not sure if it's gonna where he's gonna land, is Nick Percat as well too. Hasn't had the best of years this year. He's sort of growing the last 2 or 3, and stature was getting bigger. However, he doesn't look like a dead cert for WAU, Walkinshaw and Gritty United for next year either. He's coming out of contract.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. I mean, there's too much talent sort of floating around in the background, and also people, other people bringing money probably as well. So, unfortunately for Nick, he hasn't really. He's shown at times some, like he's won races and he's shown some real talent at times, but consistency seems to be the problem. And
eludes him.
Yeah, I think that I think at some stage he's probably going to be going to be moved aside, and whether he finds something else somewhere else. I mean, he's got plenty of experience, so you would imagine that he would be still in demand from some teams. The helicopter is annoying Mark as well, Stuart, for what it's worth. He's out your way, and
I
it's
can see
annoying
that
him as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now we've got a question from Jeremy for Chris. He wants to hear from Chris. What do you think of Shane? Do you think Shane Van Gisbergen's doing the right thing in possibly leaving Supercars and racing NASCAR full time next year?
Oh, he does whatever he likes, I suppose.
Well, anyway, remember, you heard it here first.
He'd be better. Okay, let's be brutally honest, guys. Supercars is a dead-end career for a driver. Once you've been in Supercars, and then where do you graduate to? You can't go to DTM. You can only really go to NASCAR.
Yeah. Well, or you can go over if you can go overseas, and that's the thing that Shane's great performance in Chicago has done now, is it has opened up that possibility, because now there are American journalists. I've listened to a few podcasts from people who are going, well, he was just so good, but I mean, and he's not the only one over there, and now Brody's going over there, and he's going to race. Brody Kostecki's going to race over there. as well in that same race at Indianapolis.
Shane's
So-
also retaining his original sponsor again, same sponsor. They're backing him again.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's
And
it. The interesting thing, as we said at the bottom, Denny Hamlin is now saying, well, like he
What the heck?
won't be as competitive. And this is the thing, he won't be as competitive as on the ovals. And no, he won't be because he doesn't have that
Brett.
experience.
I'm just going to read you just from Shane Van Gisbergen's Wikipedia entry, right? New Zealand racing history. After competing in
know.
motocross, quarter midgets, and karts,
quite regularly.
okay, oval track, on dirt, in midgets. If he's been successful at that, and as fast as he is in supercars,
And he's
the ovals, it's just going to be, it'll take him a couple of races. The short tracks he'll get first. The giant ovals will take a little bit longer, but they take a little bit longer for everybody. Look, somebody will give him a ride in a sprint car to go and practice, and by the time he gets to do oval tracks,
and he was
Denny Hamlin will have to eat his words.
he was asked at the weekend, did he want to go over next year? He said, yes, I want to race part-time. But they were saying that he will have to race part-time, but not necessarily in the NASCAR category, in other NASCAR categories to get his license points.
Right, so he's got a problem there. That's interesting because we see that Motorsport Australia during the last week have dropped their super license requirements for supercars now, and they're washing their hands. I think there's a very good reason that they're washing their hands of the whole thing and leaving it in the hands of Supercars Australia. I don't think that Motorsport Australia will be too keen to be too closely involved should any legal situation arise over the Joey Mawson situation, because there's no doubt that Joey should be behind the wheel of that car. He was offered the drive. He's well and truly capable of doing the gig, and Supercars are keeping him out. And then Supercars changed the rules and opened it up, and they opened it up by still putting restrictions on people by totally ignoring anything that they don't run. As far as they're concerned, S5000 doesn't exist, sports sedans don't exist, GTs don't exist, nothing exists unless supercars run it. And if you want a supercar licence, you've got to come up through their ladder system, and nothing else will do. Well, that's. I think the ACCC would have a really close look at that at some stage, because from my limited knowledge of consumer law, that to me is third party dealing, and third party dealing is very much illegal. Paul's sort of saying here that SVG was running a sprint car in New Zealand.
Yeah, he's been running.
I think he had a win as well as not at the highest level, but I mean a sprint car is a sprint car is a sprint car. So if you're winning,
reason,
as he said, Cam's been up in Mildura racing a couple of things. I think he's been further down south down here. He's been up. They've both been in the state as well too. So
you'd imagine whatever.
A sprint car would be harder to master.
New Zealand's interstate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the 8th state of Australia.
That's gonna fire Jeremy up right now.
I'm just,
do you?
High five, Stuart. We're in this together. This one,
something like that. Yeah, that way, other way. But mastering a sprint car on a loose surface like clay is going to be harder than going from supercars on asphalt to NASCAR on asphalt. The surface is
I don't know. I think
clay is
I think
different.
There's a lot of subtleties in, especially on the super speedways. There's a lot of subtleties in NASCAR racing that people just,
that's more about the drafting and it's more about the tactics and it's more
the tactics and that's what it's.
Look,
he'll be fast by himself, but when you get in those massive packs at Daytona and Talladega and that sort of thing, and you're literally touching each other at over 200 miles an hour. That's going to take a bit of getting used to.
Just swapping some sponsorship, that's all. Some decals and stuff.
Rubbings racing.
Just some quick. Haven't got much bike news this week, so don't give me the full pick, please, Brett, in this one. Ouch, Mark. Thanks, Jeremy. However, just a couple of things. Just a bit of fun stuff this week. Dobby has done an interview. He's been inducted into the MotoGP Hall of Fame. So congratulations, Dobby. He put 15 years on the MotoGP top tier level. So riding in for 3 different manufacturers. Honda, of course, it's big on the development for the Ducati and also Yamaha, which also leads to me. They did ask him who was his greatest competitor, who was his hardest racing against, and he named them all that he raced against, but he said probably Marc Marquez stood out because he was runner-up to him. I think in 17, 18 and 19, I think Dobby was runner-up in the MotoGP Championship those 3 years. So he's the bridesmaid. So he's one of those ones that just didn't make it, but really good on him for being inducted to the Hall of Fame just in the last few days. Also, quickly, if you want to see what Jack Miller's been doing, I think he's going back into training and going back overseas because they race at Silverstone this weekend, back for the start of the MotoGP rounds. And he's been doing a lot of earth moving over in WA. So I think he's creating his own track, which he's been hinting at for a little while. He just showed a lot of pictures, but he didn't say exactly what it was. And lastly, a bit of driver movement. So the speculation that's been going on. So it's been announced in the last 12 hours, maybe 24 hours, Alex Rins, who has been got his broken leg at the moment and been filled in for, and World Superbikes Lecuagio, I think, has been doing it, that sort of stuff. So Rinsy's heading off to Yamaha. However, Mr. Alex Rins is going to be suffering from the development of it because Yamaha have also come out this week and said that unlike the Ducati teams and the Honda teams and so forth, that they've really substantially suffered this season not having their satellite team like the other major manufacturers have. So just having the 2 bikes, they haven't been able to collate and use the data like some of the other teams can have. Like Ducati have got, I think, 50, 60, 70 bikes out there on the grid each week. It might be a slight exaggeration, but yeah, they can't get a satellite team in for next year because I think it's already been locked away because their old team's actually Aprilia these days, but they're looking at 2025. So that's at least Yamaha of putting it out there saying they're still going to be around racing MotoGP bikes in 2 years' time, and they want to have 4 bikes on the grid. There you go. There's just a bit of the rounds going around this week in MotoGP before the actual racing starts this weekend. Silverstone, UK. Get on it.
So that's coming up this weekend. Also coming up this weekend, if you're here locally in Melbourne, heading up the road to Winton. I'll be heading up on sometime on Saturday for the Winton Historic Festival of Speed. Looks like a pretty strong field up there. I'll be popping up, so you'll see some of that probably next week on In Pit Lane. Coming up this week on In Pit Lane, of course, is all the stuff that we shot at the Phillip Island.
Who got shot?
6 hours. I got shot. I feel like I got shot.
We all felt like we got shot.
No. Doc, it's who had shots.
Oh, I've always thought it was who shot the sheriff, but now I'm glad you actually told me what.
No.
But we've got some interviews with people there. We got some of the actually we did need some shots, and I'll go in more of that later. But we will have stuff from Phillip Island on the weekend. We've got interviews with some of the drivers talking about the event, some of the cars that were there, including absolutely magnificent looking. You might have seen it in the thumbnail for this week's show on our Facebook page. Beautiful Golf liveried 1966 Mustang Fastback. We had a look at that and spoke to the driver there. Doc caught up with a few people on the Sunday on race day, and we chatted to.
There was a lot of Triumphs there and a lot of Minis there, and there was a lot of Minis. 50 years of history of Minis going back that we didn't realise that we touched on when we chatted to a couple of the young fellas
you'll see all of that on Thursday night on In Pit Lane, and I've still got a lot of editing work to do to get the YouTube channel version up, because we got a lot of stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor because we just had so much footage, so many interviews.
Thanks for reminding me. you and Noel Tippett owe me a shot, one of each. Send me up on top of the tower for a good 20, 30 minutes to turn into a popsicle as well.
I'll see your tower, and I'll give you I'll give you Siberia every time, because I know where I'd rather be.
Did you use any of the footage from the tower, by the way?
I did use some of the footage.
Good.
And, well, it was only for the last 10 minutes you were up there, so
20. So I got 15 minutes of footage plus 5 minutes.
I was half a day at bloody Siberia.
Yeah, I know. Well, you should have taken your wet weather gear out there as well too, instead.
Well, it wasn't wet. It was sunny. It wasn't actually that cold. But God, that wind was ferocious. But anyway,
the big races down there at the track down at Phillip Island, the International Racing Circuit, they have these great big, they're called demountables, like the ones they use in schools. They're like portables. Anyway, they have a whole lot of about half a dozen of them, and they're huge things out in the middle of the track, and they only use them for the big events like MotoGP and Superbikes and the Supercars and the huge events down there. And if they're not being used around the track or at the venue, they're placed in the middle of the track out in the middle of nowhere. And they're near MG. They are fantastic protection from the weather when it's raining and it's blowing.
Yeah, we've done that a few times.
I just ducked behind it there and there. Oh, that's a good looking car.
Unfortunately, at Siberia, there was literally nowhere to hide. And you couldn't let we had the camera went down twice on Sunday, once at the start and once up at Siberia again, because I put the camera down on the heavy tripod, I let go of it, and suddenly it just went whoosh.
You didn't go
it was
down
away.
too, did you?
I nearly did. It was very hard to stand up straight in the thing. And I had to repark the car because I either couldn't get the door open, or if I'd have opened it with the wind at the back of there, it would have ripped the bloody door off. So yeah, it was.
Just keep digging. Yep.
It was not. It was not good.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Okay.
No, it's not going to go there.
No, the seals and the dolphins were fine.
Yeah, they were fine. Yep. Okay, we'll catch you there. I'm now going to go to bed, I think, because I'm very, very, very tired. Thanks a lot, Box. Yeah, tomorrow night, Channel 31, 9:30. As I said, next week, probably something from Winton, not 100% sure, because as I said, now I don't know what's happening next week in terms of this particular show. I've really, really got to take some time off. There's some very important stuff, and I really need it before we start back in the studio again. Speaking of the studio is booked. The time slot has been locked in on Channel 31. We will be back for a third series at this stage, but once again, providing it really does come down to sponsorship. We still don't have full enough sponsorship to make it happen at the moment. So if you'd like to get the power of prime time free-to-air television, and that Thursday night time slot, as we said before, is the most popular time slot on Channel 31. Over 600,000 viewers watch that. Have watched that over each series. That's not just us, but Fletch and his show with Classic Restos, the four-wheel drive, Rusty Bumper to Bumper, a few of those sorts of shows. We're the most popular night on Channel 31. So if you're selling anything to that particular market, this is the way to get involved. So give us a call here at Inpit Lane, or send us an email, or message us through the Facebook page, or stop in a pub somewhere.
Should get Jason on a Motorsport Madness marathon that we have on Thursday nights. That'd be he does. Have you seen some of his ads he's been doing? He's done a fantastic job, our Jason.
Yes, Jason doing that. So thanks to Box. Yes, Paul might catch you up at Winton. He'll be in one of the safety team use. I'll be up there sometime late on there. I've got to talk to I've got to catch up with John Bower. We're doing some stuff for the Baskerville Historics. John is the patron of the of this year's Baskerville Historics, and we're going to be doing some special stuff with him that they'll be using in their pre-event publicity. So I've got to catch up with John and I'll give him some stuff and do some interviews with him, and also we'll see what's there. I thought the sports sedans, I thought historic sports sedans were running there. Unfortunately, they're not, because I thought that there was a chance that we might see the Brian Thompson Volkswagen up there, but that's not the case. Sports sedans will definitely be down at the Baskerville Historic, and they've got a really good field coming up there as well. And then a week after that, it's out to Sandown. Also coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and I've got to come back for this, whether I like it or not. Calder Park, the return of racing to Calder Park is coming up. Round of the Victorian Motor Racing Championship, the AASA series, including the return of stock cars. The NASCAR stock cars, the ones that have been running on the road circuits, they're going to be there, under 2 litre sports sedans, Super TT, a lot of categories running around at Calder Park on that weekend coming up.
You're required, Stuart.
Oh, maybe we'll have to see if I'm working or not.
Yep.
Sounds good. We can get you.
And speaking of working, Doc, I'll see you on Friday night probably. The rest of you, I will see you. I will see you when I see you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until we see you again very soon, either on Full Course Yellow or in Pit Lane. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
Have a
Cool.
great week.
It's time to swear.